Ladies and gentlemen, friends, welcome to the official launch of My AI. We at AI Sweden are excited to move out of beta and show the world our personalized platform for the AI community and industry. Artificial intelligence not only holds the potential to success, survival, and prosperity for humans on Earth within our planetary boundaries, but it's also a relatively hyped buzzword that is in some sort of parallel universe, and it can create a lot of confusion. So here is our contribution to making AI more real, more accessible, more operational. We are not here to be prescriptive today, but set up a backbone of a community and hear from speakers and part of the community that already sees an opportunity in My AI. My name is Aurora Belfrage. I'm a technology investor and a senior advisor at AI Sweden, and I have the honor of moderating these next hour and a half together. But first, let's start and kick us off today by listening to our host, Conny Svensson, who is product owner of My AI and head of AI transformation at AI Sweden. Conny, welcome. Tell us, what are we doing here? What's going here?
Thank you so much, Aurora. Well, this is, as you said, the public launch of My AI. And as you can hear, that means that we have had already an beta launch. So we have been running this for half a year to really try this out and build something that is really unique, we think, and will bring great value to the Swedish AI ecosystem today here.
Conny, was this a request from the community?
Oh yes, this is really based on the need we see out there, as you said, to be, inspire what you can do with AI, to find resources, to material, and also to connect different parties together. And this is really reaching out to the whole ecosystem in Sweden, not just the partners of AI Sweden. And this will, of course, this is a 1.0 we released today, but this will, of course, evolve over time as we see the Swedish ecosystem mature as usage of AI.
So Conny, reading between the lines, I'm hearing that you're opening up for the audience to give us suggestions and ideas and give us feedback.
Oh yes, this is really built for the community by the community.
And we can do that already today. So by using the chat functionality in Zoom, you can ask questions to us. You can come with constructive criticism to Conny, as well as questions for our audience. But Conny, could you kick us off today and talk a bit about what this LinkedIn for AI means and what you've built and how we should see it?
Of course, yes. So to start, we at AI Sweden, we have this mission that we want to accelerate the use of AI in Sweden, both for society and everybody living here. So this is what we see the next step in this, to really accelerate, but also to scale out the efforts that we do. Because what we are doing is we're trying to invest the time and resources together and then share this with as many as possible. But in this picture, we have so many different actors. It's not just the partners of AI Sweden. It's not just organizations, also individuals that need to collaborate, find each other. And we can't do this by just being, us as people sitting there in the middle doing this. We need something that has a scaling effect, a network effect. And that is what we see in a digital platform like My AI. So we want to facilitate these, collaborations and people finding each other, organizations finding other organizations that can help each other. Because as we know, AI is really a complicated matter that we need to collaborate around this. We can't do this by ourselves. So our vision is really, how can we be the best in the world to collaborate about how to be more mature, how we use AI in Swedish organizations, and really be the best in this collaborative learning experience. So we set up to solve a couple of challenges that we heard from the ecosystem and the partnerships that we have around there. And first of all, AI is, as you said, a little bit hyped still. So we need to be more relevant in showing what value AI can bring to Swedish organizations. So it's not just a matter of, hearing the latest news from DeepMind and all these fantastic AI efforts. We need to understand, what does this mean for a small organization? What does this mean for the public sector in Sweden? So really, inspire organizations and so they can learn from each other. And also, how can this journey look for different organizations from the first time you hear about AI to have AI really an integrated part in your organization? The second one is really the need for competence around AI. So it's really both finding the talents out there, the individuals, both the employees already in the organizations, but also new talent coming in from maybe outside Sweden, new people coming from the schools and universities. But also, what is the knowledge that these individuals need to gain to be able to use AI? And not just the technical knowledge, but also from an organizational and business standpoint, how does this change the way we operate our business and the processes, and how do we talk about this in the leadership teams and the management? So the competence is really a multifaceted area. And then I mentioned this. So who do you collaborate with, and how do you do this? And it's not just organizations collaborating with each other. It's also different sectors. It's individuals and organizations, individuals finding common interest and together can create great value with this. And the fourth point is really finding relevant information for you. The lack of access to resources is a big challenge we have today. And also because AI is such a big field today, we need to make it relevant for you. So today, it feels like you almost have to have a PhD just to understand and find the right information that AI is for you. So it's very different if you're a student at a university and you want to become a data scientist. You're probably interested in research reports and the latest findings. But if you work in the HR department at a bigger organization, you might want to know, how AI can help you in recruiting the greatest talents. And it's very different perspectives. And these people and individuals need different information. So that is this personalized thing in My AI. You can just hear from the name, My AI is really about you as an individual, but also in your context, meaning the organization where you work and do your thing. So we have chosen to tackle these challenges in a couple of different ways. First of all, for inspiration and learnings, what you can do is what we call use cases. And this has been something that a lot of different parties have lifted as a great and big need. So have a national use case library where we can find what has others done, both in your own industry, but also what has others done. I think it's a very important way that we don't just look in our own sector, that we can learn from each other cross-sector, both public sector, private sector, internationally and nationally. We want to spread more learnings and package knowledge, and also challenge what we mean with learning and knowledge, not just the formal point of educations like courses, classes, and all that, but also podcasts, white papers, and everything that is packaged knowledge that you can adopt and make it a competence that you can apply in your organizations. And you also meet a lot of people in these different events. So learnings and events is really the way that we tackle this kind of competence gap. And then really, how do we create smart matchmaking features and functions? So we can have somebody with a challenge in their organization reaching out to the ecosystem saying, so who can help us with this challenge? Maybe reach out to the researchers or academia, or it could be more like you're looking for talent. So matchmaking can be on very different levels and ways you put these actors together. And then resources is really what is the most kind of common building block in My AI. Resources is anything digitally that you feel that you want to share with the community. I usually say that if you sit on anything that you think somebody else in Sweden might be of interest that is related to AI, then it's a resource you should share on My AI. And resource could be a data set, it could be a trained model, but it could also be a research paper, it could be a YouTube video, it could be anything digitally shareable. And we already have a lot of resources today in the platform. Because as I said, My AI has already been in a beta phase. So today we have over 1,000 users. We have over 100 use cases already that you can take care of. We have more than 400 resources from all different perspectives. So this is really already a great start. So we're not starting from zero here. We're starting from a great starting point. So this is showing what are the different kind of building blocks, as I talked about, that we have in My AI. We're trying to not replace the different places that are on the internet today. There are YouTube is great for videos. We have archive that is great for research papers. We all have all these different places. What My AI is trying to do is combine all these into one portal that we can all kind of get of, and also create a common taxonomy. So we talk about these things in a similar language, regardless of kind of the different building blocks. So people, organizations, and all these things can come together. We can create these really unique features and services. So it's this secret sauce is how we combine these different building blocks in new services for the community. And that is really where we want to get your feedback in how we can build these great services. So just to give you a little sneak peek of the platform itself, as you said, it's a little bit like LinkedIn from a conceptual standpoint. You create your own personal account, you log in, you get this great starting page where you can see the latest use cases, the resources shared by the community. And again, it's the community that builds this platform. It's not AI Sweden that puts up all these great things. It's user-driven. But we make sure that it's good quality content. We have a moderation feature, so everybody can make sure that it's really good quality and impartial content. So we don't want to have too many sales pitches on here. And then, as I said, the use case library is really one of the tentpole features, really inspiring others what you can do with AI, and not just what you can do, but also what are the actual real results you can get from these AI projects, and what are the learnings from these projects, not just from a technical standpoint, but also what are the best practices, what were the stumbling blocks in these things, did we have legal questions around data and all this, so we can together learn better and be better at adopting AI in our organizations. And that's really what we want to do with My AI, to accelerate the use and adoption of AI in Swedish organizations. So then once you have and find a great use case, as I said, you can see all the different resources you can connect to these use cases. And I know a lot of you already out there has registered for My AI, but if you haven't done so already, go to my.ai.se to sign up, and you can do that during this meeting and start looking around already. But this is really quick intro to why we're building AI, what we're trying to achieve, and what it is today. But we have a lot more great to come.
Thank you, Conny, for that. And clearly, we that are here today contributing and listening are excited about the prospect of a community like that. But I'm going to challenge you and channel my inner cynic here and go, you know what? AI is actually one of the most important competitive edges today. Why would I share my competitive edge on a free, open community like My AI?
Oh, that is a great question. And actually, it is because you also want to be part of showing that part of being in the competitiveness is also showing that you're doing great things. So when it comes to use cases, we see a lot of organizations actually wanting to show that they're working with AI, because it's also a way to attract new talent, to show what you're doing. But it's, of course, it's up to you how much you want to share with business secrets. But I think this is really part of building Sweden of tomorrow.
It's an opportunity to humble brag, is what I hear as well. Thank you, Conny. You will join me today and we will ask questions and we will get more information out of our speakers. So more from you in a second. And I would like to welcome our first guest speaker today, which is Christian Guttman. He is the Executive Director of Nordic Artificial Intelligence Institute. And he's here to talk about the core of the challenge that we're facing, which is how do we accelerate the use of AI and why it matters. Christian, welcome.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you for coming. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Fantastic to be here. So super excited to be here, and so much is happening in the AI ecosystem here in Sweden and in the world. And I always keep my eye on what's happening in the world and what we are doing here, particularly Europe. I want us to be strong. I want us to be a player that matters globally. And so that is my passion and has been my passion for a very long time. I've been active here in the Swedish AI ecosystem as well as in Europe, Germany, the Netherlands, and so on. So always keep an eye on the latest developments. In this talk, I would like to focus a bit on AI issues, or let's say thresholds or impediments for a company. So if you feel you're a little bit stuck in how quickly you can adopt AI in your company, hopefully these coming four topics will be helping you to think differently and get new perspectives. So these are insights and experiences. I'm not here to preach about things that I haven't done myself. So many of these things in building products and building AI into companies is something I like to share here. So, and I would like to start actually with the modernization of your view of AI. That's probably my favorite topic. I've changed the slides slightly in a way that I like to highlight that AI is not just model building, fitting curves. There's a huge amount of focus on machine learning, which focuses in turn on having data available that companies, particularly conventional companies that are not in the data space, in the tech space, would like to use the existing data. And first, AI is not just about machine learning. There are many different families of technologies that are very important. Collaborative artificial intelligence is one of them. I spent many years in this area. We deployed products that are using multi-agent system distributed AI in Australia in the healthcare system. Very important. That has to do with how AIs collaborate with each other, for example. And another area is, for example, also tabula rasa, where you have AI using data that is not coming from legacy data, but it is created as part of an engine that plays against itself or creates a world and becomes better in building solutions, essentially. And another one is really to start using data that you create yourself. So you can make sure that that data is actually useful for the artificial intelligence and machine learning models that you will be using, if that's the path that you would be taking. So very important, AI is a big family of different technologies that some of them use AI, use data, and others do not. Generally speaking, legacy data is something you want to avoid. CRM system, ERP systems, the ecosystem and many conventional companies are jumping on that because they believe it exists. But it has also been built up over now decades, and it's highly outdated, very painful to transform into a format that is useful. And I strongly recommend, and I'm doing this a lot with different leaders in conventional companies, to start focusing and looking at data that you can create, that you have control over, and that's fit for purpose when it comes to AI. So that's something I would like to highlight here as a very important point. There's too much thinking now that AI is about machine learning and data, and it is absolutely not, and hasn't been for 70 years, ever since AI has started, pretty much. The second topic I would like to bring up, it has a lot more to do with the psychology and the politics in the company. AI has been utilized in companies and brought in, sometimes from top down, sometimes from bottom up. What I like to highlight here is that the initial projects that you're introducing in companies, particularly in conventional companies. By those, I mean, for example, manufacturing, healthcare, financial services, which do not use data or AI as part of their core products and services. It is important to start choosing projects or products or initiatives which make sense for as many stakeholders as possible in the organization, because you will have natural resistance in the company from other vice presidents, from the middle management, from employees, from owners of the company. So it is the experience that I have is to bring in meaningful projects which are not aiming for maximum impact or maximum revenue or change a lot in the organization, but it is projects that are actually create the most sense for critical stakeholders in the organization, so that you have a type of beachhead approach where you can expand the initial projects quickly in the organization. So very important. A second point related to that is that artificial intelligence the technology is complex. In fact, it is complex enough not to be fully understood in many of its ways of how it's operating, but AI business does not have to be complex. So meaning that once you understand and you have the key personnel and the expertise in the room, you can start finding business cases and use cases relatively quickly, and you can develop the ROIs, you can develop the business impact, the value that's created. So, and for that purpose, invite the right people, invite the key people to these types of AI discussions early on, the owners of these projects, the investors, the sponsors, the business key stakeholders. So that is a very important part. Don't make technology a main part of your discussion. So when I'm speaking to customers, when I'm speaking to partners, government ministers or CEOs of companies or boards, I seldom use technology as a main part of my first pitch. I'm not discussing algorithms or machine learning mathematics. I have that all in my head and all in my background, and it is absolutely essential in order for me to generate meaningful business discussions. But it is not something that I'm bringing to the table when I'm actually introducing new products or increase or improve the operations of the company. So make it an easy business talk while keeping awareness as to how complex the technology still is, which requires, and of course, talent that helps you to turn this into action. And a final consideration, it's talked a lot about, it's the AI culture. As I mentioned before, non-data-driven business often start with simpler projects, which are not changing the core products and services of the organization. They are not, the initial products often are not changing the organization at its core. Neither does it create a new portfolio of products and services in the first instance. And I'm speaking here of conventional companies. Many startups here in the Nordics and Europe do that, of course, and in the world. But conventional companies that, for example, have pulp and paper or financial services or healthcare services at their core, they don't usually jump in recreating or revamping their products and services. That means often they look at operations, meaning how can they deliver the products and services they have today in a faster and better, effective and efficient way. That can be, could be, for example, logistics, could be sales, could be many other parts of the organization where you slowly introduce artificial intelligence, which then helps the existing products and services to be brought to market quicker. Having said that, there is an opportunity for conventional companies then first to build up confidence that artificial intelligence works, is safe, and is a good way of creating value. And it's also, there are spillover effects. So you can see when something works, when it could apply to products and services. It's worth noting, it's a slightly conservative approach. So obviously you need to convince the board and the leadership in order to make bigger moves and make the company think about how AI can be much more of a core driver in the organization. So last but not least, I hope I have provided enough basic context for Aurora and Connie to ask me questions. The last point, the last slide I want to share with you is that I am a part of the Nordic Artificial Intelligence Institute. It's an independent organization since 2015, and we have been globally active. Contact us. We are sharing, we soon will share a book, newly published book. We provide workshops. We talk to startup founders and to CEOs, boards, government representatives, and really try to push the ecosystem forward here in Europe and in the world. So please contact us. Don't hesitate. Follow us on Twitter. Lots of good information to share. So
thank you for that, Christian. I thought that was a great overview of many of the do's and don'ts and some food for thought there. One thing that I was reflecting over is that you've been doing this for many years, and you've been talking about these topics for many years, and no criticism on you, but it's the same. The market isn't moving that quickly. Many of the things that you were talking about in 2015 are still on your slides today because the market has a slow adaptation of this technology. And we don't have time to give the full answer, and we'll continue in the Q&A afterwards. But like, what's the short answer to that?
Yeah, I mean, there's several reasons. In Europe, we have primarily non-data, non-AI, non-algorithmic companies. Pulp and paper, finances, banks, manufacturing companies, are very strong with those. The reality is that many of them are dealing with very, very basic IT systems. And they have come into a realization in the 90s, you know, where you have websites and we have email service, and that's really what they deal with today. So I've had so many customers, and we build so many products that are focusing on just getting very, very basic things right. And I think the focus and the value creation by the owners of these companies, many of which are experts in their own field, they of course have no intuition. You know, I make generalization. They're exceptions, fantastic exceptions, of course, right? But they have much less of, yeah, exactly right. And you should cherish those exceptions, right? You should highlight them.
They have to be your clients.
Some of them are, some of them becoming my clients, yeah. But you know, it's very important for them to understand that. And I think, yeah. So and also, if another point that I could mention, it is very important to realize, as we have conventional companies, when you look at other industries like healthcare or, for example, law. I've recently given a talk and spoke to the leadership of a big law firm here in Sweden. And the owners and the directors of that law firm are all practicing lawyers. The CEOs of the biggest hospitals in the world are all practicing doctors. They all have a 10, 15-year education in this field, and therefore they are able to build and run these companies. Now, we have very, very few companies that are run by PhDs in AI that are practicing and have the correct business acumen to drive that forward. I think when you do not have that, you will have people leading companies that have knowledge of their own industry, but lack the knowledge in these new technologies. And that makes it very difficult for them to adopt.
Thank you, Christian. We will continue this conversation later, but I think from an audience point of view, this highlights that there is a gap and there's still an opportunity. So even if people like Christian have been talking about this since 2015, it's not too late. And My AI is an opportunity to get on the bandwagon. Before that, Alessandra Salo is joining us from Ireland. She's the president of Women in AI and senior director of AI and data science at Shutterstock. Alessandra, welcome. Share your take on, and you're releasing a report here today, a world premiere, shaping the future of work for women in AI. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I hope you hear me properly here. Fantastic. So it's an honor to be here. And it's an honor to be here with AI Sweden, because we have done a project together and we'd like to discuss it a little bit more. So I'm the president of Women in AI. I'm also a practitioner in the AI field for more than 10 years. First in academia and then in industry. I have done research in the AI space. So today we are here to talk about the project we have undertaken with AI Sweden, which is Women in AI at Work. But before we dive into it, let's just state why those two organizations have found this common interest. So Women in AI is a nonprofit think tank which really means that we have a mission of working and actually doing towards shaping an inclusive AI for our common future. So our organization consists of a global community of highly skilled women, well-educated in tech and AI. Our profiles are more than 96% women, from junior to C-level, between 25 and 40 years old. And those pool of talent come from background in STEM, business, entrepreneurship. More than 42% have degrees, 30% bachelor, and 14% PhD. But why I'm sharing those numbers? Because those numbers really highlight that this very engaged community that we have across 150 countries across the world, with the talent pool that we have collected in Women in AI, which are the base of looking at women at work. So we have partnered with AI Sweden, which, as we heard today, is the Swedish National Center for Applied Artificial Intelligence. And most importantly, because their core mission is to accelerate the use of AI for the benefit of society and everyone living in Sweden, which is very much aligned with the core principle of Women in AI globally. Furthermore, Sweden has long promoted gender equality and female participation in the workforce. So sharing those principles that everyone, regarding the gender, has the right of work and support themselves to balance their career and their family life, and to live without fear of abuse and violence, which is exactly some of the key points that we have then discovered in the report that we want to present today. So very quickly, why we have undertaken this project of Women at Work, and why are we launching the result today? So most HR and recruiting professional in tech and AI company are aware of the lack of diversity and women in this industry. According to some recent report, like the World Economic Forum and LinkedIn, only 22% of women are part of the workforce in artificial intelligence, and even fewer in leadership position. The gap appears even more stark at fund companies. So we know that based on the AI Now Institute, only 50% of AI researchers staff women at Facebook and only 10 at Google. So which are the key questions behind this study, this global study that we have done? So we were looking at understanding how can the right talent be attracted and hired in the AI and the industry? What really matter for those choosing those jobs and career? And most importantly, which are the needs and the drivers of women and a diverse community to enter the tech industry? So we have interviewed AI expert. We have 200 participants to our survey. Here in the slide, I'm reporting a breakdown of the key competence and area of expertise of the women who have participated to the survey. The survey that we report today was taken between November and December in 2021. 99% of the participants were women, and 81% of those were currently working in AI, and 63 for more than 2 years. And those are the expertise that they brought in. But let me quickly jump into our finding. So let's start with the first one. Only 50% of the participants have reported that they were satisfied with the condition of their current roles. This is an important number because if we compare this 50% to a global digital talent work happiness score study that was done in 2020, we have lost ground. There it was found that 76% of participants in US and 71 in Denmark were actually satisfied. So what is happening? Maybe COVID is a factor, but fundamentally a shift in the working culture and in the work attitude may be affecting women more than men. On top of that, we also need to remember that we have found a number that really hurts all of us as human beings. 73% of the people surveyed had experienced discrimination, and 41% had experienced sexual harassment. So people cannot be happy at work or satisfied with their life condition if those conditions are still there. So we need to be aware and act upon those today. One of the most important factors for people that have participated to this survey to indicate job satisfaction was work-life balance and the definition of a flexible working environment. But really what I want to spend just 1 minute on is what I found most interesting about the result of this survey, which is really a space for further investigation, and it's about behavior. So 54% of women in AI surveyed responded, they found that their leadership boards at their company did not represent a diverse workforce. And even worse, 28% found that their company did not give equal opportunity for promotion to all employees. So this is an interesting data point on which we all should reflect, because in companies, there is a strong stereotype of who is successful and which are the behavioral traits that leads to success. We know that women and a diverse workforce brings in very diverse behavior, very diverse attitude. And we need to understand that even diverse behavior and attitude that can be more kind, that can be more inclusive, connecting, lead to success. And this is an important point on which this report will continue to evolve. And we ask for participation because the report is still open, so please bring your opinion in. So just to conclude, some key takeaway that we have discovered through the study. It's very important for women to have time to self-development and peer-to-peer coaching, mix their routine and their challenging task, grow their skills through training and through mentorship program, and also investing in their soft skill through leadership and training that can help to develop the career within the working environment. So I like to conclude this first part of the discussion. So this report really wants to stimulate a genuine insight and partnership between organizations that take a stand for change by listing the pain point and the need of a diverse workforce. So beyond offering advice to companies, this report also provides concrete advice for women entering the AI field and receiving insight and guideline from women leaders themselves who have been interviewed within this study. So And some of those insights really speak about how to find the right company, how to foster inclusive behavior in their company, and really owning their place within this evolving tech environment. So we need to listen to each other and really work together to commit to an approach that encompasses everyone and makes everyone feel heard and valued. It's only by gathering women and men to share their experience and join their resources and skill set that we can really build a system that fosters inclusivity and more equal environment. So I'd like to thank you. Obviously, my AI platform, it's an honor to be with you here today and join your journey to share knowledge and experiences within this platform. We encourage individuals to reach out, to be part of Women in AI and my AI platform and start to collaborate and strive for change together. We also want to thank you, AI Sweden, without whom this project wouldn't have been possible. And we like to thank the whole Women in AI team who I represent here today and everyone involved in the process, in the project. So the report will be shared in the My AI platform, and we'll also provide a link for anyone that wants to contribute and bring their opinion in to continue to share our experience and grow together. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Alessandra, for that. That was both enlightening and a huge thank you from all of us for the important work that you guys are doing. You'll be coming back for the panel later on, but I'd like to peg you with one of the questions I'm going to ask you later, which is, could you give us some concrete examples of how we can use the My AI platform to engage with the community and allow for stronger diversity and collaboration? But that's for later.
Okay.
Thank you. And we will swiftly be moving on for our next guest in the studio, Susanne Drakeboy from Stella Polaris. And we're going to talk about how AI can combat child sexual abuse. Susanne, thank you for joining us here in the studio.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. At Childhood, we work to prevent child sexual abuse. And our 4-year project, Stella Polaris, is focused on how artificial intelligence can be of help. When we talk about child sexual abuse, we're talking about children ages 0 to 18. And we're talking about different types of child sexual abuse. It can range from the rape of a small infant to using sexual images that a teenager might have sent voluntarily, but then those images are used to blackmail and terrorize the person into sending even more images and videos. So there's a wide range of child sexual abuse that needs to be addressed. And when we're looking at how AI can help, sometimes it's necessary to zoom in on specific target groups or specific crimes to figure out specifically how a certain type of tool can be of help. The enormity of child sexual abuse is difficult to fathom. In the slide, I have some examples. Increasingly, there are more cases of possession of child sexual abuse material, where there are more than 10 million images of child sexual abuse and hundreds of hours of video. So that's a lot of data to go through. A report by Interpol showed that over 60% of the images in their database, a database of child sexual abuse images, contain images of children who are prepubescent. And what we also know, unfortunately, is that the younger the child, the more severe the abuse, because the younger the child, the more helpless they are. Also, just one individual through online grooming can reach over 100 children and sexually abuse them. So the devastation that one individual can be able to do through online grooming is devastating. At Childhood, we also focus on perpetrators and potential perpetrators because we believe it's very important from a prevention perspective. In the end, we want to prevent child sexual abuse from ever taking place. And because of that, a report that came out last year is very interesting. It was a report that is based on a survey among almost 8,500 darknet users in child sexual abuse forums. So these are people who on a regular basis consume child sexual abuse material. And they themselves reported, 52% of them, that because of the material and them using it, they're afraid that they will contact children. And 37% reported already having contacted children. The reason I mention this is because it's not just a crime to possess child sexual abuse material, but it can also lead to more children being sexually abused. A final word about child sexual abuse is that we know that online child sexual abuse can be as traumatic and at times even more traumatic than offline sexual abuse. So it doesn't really matter if it's online, offline, or a hybrid case. Regardless, it's something that we really need to address. Luckily, artificial intelligence is already being used to combat child sexual abuse. There are tools being used to find and report child sexual abuse material. There are tools being used to identify both perpetrators and victims in all the images and the videos that the police have. There was a mapping made of AI tools within the field, and over 50 were found that are already being used. Our job at Childhood and Stella Polaris is to look at the challenges, make sure that more stakeholders are aware of the tools that already exist, to make sure that they have access to them, that they're not just aware of them, and also how can they be made more effective so that the tools are used to their full potential. We're also looking at how existing AI tools that are not yet used in combating child sexual abuse, how can they be adapted? What is needed for that? And more long-term, we're looking at new tools which are needed. So our mission is to identify various areas where we can adapt AI tools or help develop new ones. So some of these might be using AI to detect online grooming before it happens, as it happens, to go through the vast amounts of data related to, for example, grooming cases, to at an early stage detect patterns of behavior and also new trends as things progress. We want to use AI to better understand the patterns of users on darknet forums discussing child sexual abuse so that we can learn more about them, and also to use AI when it comes to monitoring clients, patients who want help through cognitive behavioral therapy to stop using child sexual abuse material. So there are many areas where we see an enormous potential for AI. Stella Polaris, as I mentioned, is a 4-year project which we're implementing at Childhood. Our focus is on Sweden, and we're focusing on the opportunities and the resources that exist here to see if we can help make Sweden a best practice of how a country can address these issues with the help of AI. Because the challenges can at times feel paralyzing, but we know that there's far too little being done compared to what could actually be done with the resources and opportunities that exist. So our mission is to bring people together to make sure that child rights experts, prosecutors, police can collaborate with AI experts, tech companies, researchers. And so we have created a knowledge hub, a knowledge center online, We have a database of existing technical tools so that we can avoid anyone reinventing the wheel, but instead seeing how can various wheels be improved and what possible collaborations are available out there globally. So it's a global database. We have a key gap analysis to see where should we focus our efforts. We're undertaking various reports and studies to better understand what we should focus on and what data is accessible. And we also have a number of working groups and workshops, which will start soon and continue for the next 3 years, including AI product development, looking at transactional patterns when it comes to live streaming, and how the vast amounts of data when it comes to grooming cases can be sifted through with the help of AI. So considering that we're focusing on networking and bringing people together, finding use cases and informing about use cases, it was only natural that we wanted to be part of My AI, because all of those things are possible there. Thank you.
Thank you, Susanna, for that. And thank you for your important work. Listening to this, it sounds moving into the tech side of this sounds less important, but getting the best tools available is obviously something that will underpin everything that you guys do. To tap into what Christian was saying earlier, how has it been culturally for you to move into an AI-based toolbox and learning about the opportunities and embedding that in your culture and your operations?
It's felt very natural. So I've been with Childhood for 15 years. Childhood has been around for 22 years. And 20 years ago, Childhood actually provided seed funding to a tech startup, which became NetClean and then became Safer Society, and is a very important tech company when it comes to combating child sexual abuse. We also looked into research when it comes to tech and child sexual abuse. So it's been something that we've had with us for many years. And specifically AI, we started looking into it 3-4 years ago when we prepared a big roundtable to better understand how AI can be used. So it's been gradual, but it's felt very natural and very welcoming.
Any learnings?
Oh gosh,
learnings here.
You're putting me on the spot. Well, I would say a tech learning somewhat is that it's not all about the tech, if you will.
Important learning.
Yes, because it's so easy to think, oh, if we just had resources in terms of the tech expertise or the money, then it'll be fine. But obviously there are legal hurdles, there are ethical challenges, there are questions of sort of, you could say also culture within the tech community and within the non-tech community. How do we adapt to new tools? What is it that makes us want to start using something versus not, and how do we do so most efficiently? So I think understanding, especially I'm a techie at heart, but not everyone is. So to understand that it's not all about tech makes it also more accessible.
Very good learning, and we'll welcome you back to the Q&A later, and hopefully My AI as a community will be able to strengthen your work, but also I think put a spotlight on what we can do and how we can together solve really big problems.
We really hope so.
Thank you, Susanna. And we will move on to the fourth and last topic of today. And I'd like to welcome Annika here, who's with us from Microsoft. And she's going to address, I think, one of the pillars of everything that we talked about. How do we address the competence gap in our organizations? And I'm talking about the AI competence gap. Annika, the floor is yours. Please tell us how it's done.
Thank you. So the magic soup, if you may. So thank you for having me here. Closing the skills gap, it is not easy, and I will try to give our view on that. So first of all, every company is moving into becoming a digital company. We heard that every company is a software company. We heard it for some years now. And what that really means is as we heard, many companies really need to adapt to tech. And what we have found in working globally with a lot of customers is that the customers who has a high tech intensity is the ones that really thrives in this digital era. And what is tech intensity? It's really two parts, two aspects of it. One is the adoption of tech. Like how do you adopt fast to existing tech? How do you give access to your people to the latest tech, to use what's already out there, not to reinvent everything again? Like how do you adapt the technology? The other part is really that even if we have the tech there, we also need as an organization to build our capacity within the organization. And when I talk about capacity, it's really both the deep tech skills. We need to have people that is really deep knowledgeable in that new tech, but also a lot about culture. We need to have a culture, a leadership that is brave, a culture of collaboration, to really build the tech intensity in the organization. So it's a combination of adoption, speed of adoption, and also the capabilities that you are driving. And a core fundament for tech intensity is also trust. And it's trust in tech. Of course, you have to be able to trust the tech that you're using, but also back again to the leadership. The leadership needs to trust the organization in handling the tech. So a lot of trust in there. And why am I bringing this up? Why am I talking about tech intensity? I was supposed to talk about skilling gap, but it's really important to know that it's not just only giving the tech to people, skilling the tech people. It's also a lot about how do you use the tech, the culture about it. And it's not even just the tech people that we need to skill up. So moving into the next picture, this is a picture that we usually talk about or use when we are talking about digital transformation. This is our go-do slide when we talk about digital transformation at Microsoft. And the essence of this slide is really showing that the whole organization, all the different parts of the organization is part of a digital transformation. We have from customer engagement in stores or in hospitals, we have employees that needs to be feeling empowered with using tech. We need the transformation of our products, moving into SaaS products or more digital products, and also all about the operational optimization of our organization. How do we do things? And as you see, it's kind of a flow in this picture, and that really shows the data or the insights rather that flows within the organization. This is the picture of data-driven organization. And in the middle of it, of course, we have to have AI, because that is really what we feel now that people or organizations are adapting towards. They started to do digitalization. They started to work really well with data platforms, getting the insights to flow across the organization. And now they're looking into how can they drive automation with AI, and how can they bring more new insights to AI, and how can they provide new products into the market, engage with customers in new ways. So this is the slide for digital transformation. And the important thing with this slide is really that all these 4 pillars in this slide is really representing people in the organization, people that really knows their part of the organization by heart. They really have their passion about engaging with the customers. Might not have the passion for tech, but we need to tap into the passion that they feel about how they engage the customers and have them to work with the tech people in the organization. And in order to close that gap, they, in the organization, all the business users, all the leaders from the business in the organization need to have some sense of what the tech actually can do. And when we talk about AI, Christian earlier talked about why isn't it moving faster in AI? And I think this is really a key for that. We simply do not know in the organization. If the organization only knew the capabilities that AI have, they will go out and do a lot of more AI. So huge part of that. I also really think that the slides can give you a hint of what capabilities, what kind of skills do you need to build in the organization when it comes to AI? Because in the same sense that this picture can show what kind of digital transformation you need to do, having the IT projects based on more the business plan, the strategy for the organization, you can use that business plan, the strategy that you have, to identify where do you have the use cases for AI, and what then do you have to have as a capability, and what do you have to have as a tech in order to do that. So make this really, the essence of it is really to use your business strategy to find out what kind of skills you need and who needs that skills. Well, of course, we have in the circle, we have the AI folks, sort of the subject matter expert team, if you may. Those are the people that really need to be super deep on AI. And this circle is really not representing the roles that you need to have. It's more of representing the competences that you need to have. And if you do not have the room for all these competences in your organization, there's tons of partners out there that can sort of fill the gap. But make sure that you have these competences, these roles around the table when you do the AI project. But then really make sure that the organization part of it is also on board with AI. The leaders, as I said, the business people needs to understand. So find out a way to sort of inspire the whole organization. That's my first go-to. Give showcase of use cases, sort of lighten the creativity in the organization of what AI can do. And then identify a couple of business users that really have a passion for tech, that might be techies at heart, or just like simply just want to do something. Identify those and make them a little bit more deeper into AI so that they know even a little bit more. And then, of course, have the strong team of competence. And if you do not have them internally or in-house, make sure that you have them in the partner. And just to point out, in the organization part, that is where the legal people, the HR people, all of those people, that is super crucial in order to succeed with AI. They need to understand AI as well to contribute. And how do you do it? We at Microsoft, we have been training our people in tech for ages, of course. We are a tech company by core. And we are also doing a lot of trainings on leadership, on culture, and a lot of sort of soft skills. So we have a culture of always learning, always developing as persons in the organization. And now on the last couple of years, we have really invested a lot in helping our customers in the same journey, providing them with a lot of skills, doing strategy skilling plans connected to the strategy that they have. And what we have learned while doing that is really important to have skills in each and every one of the deployment plan in your organization, digital skills, and in this case, AI. And it doesn't have to be that they need to understand everything about AI, but they need to know what AI is, at least. So have that kind of skills requirement in every people development plan in your organization. The other part is really to provide different kinds of trainings, learning opportunities, because each and every one of us is different. Every one of us learns in different way. Some like to go to trainings in the classroom. Some want to spend time on their computer to do on-demand, self-paced learning. Some really want to just reach out to their peers and learn while in dialogue with a couple of other people, or some might learn while they are doing. And a really core for success when it comes to building skills is to make sure that you have a variety of skills opportunities in the organization. And the last one, set out time for learning. At Microsoft, we have every Friday afternoon is blocked in our calendar to do learning. And at that time, we do the learnings that is provided for our roles, but also the learnings that is provided for me to move on to my next role, me as a person more. So that is really, really important to set up the time to learning if you then have the sort of the platform for it. And of course, yeah, you see a couple of three different ways of learning AI that Microsoft is providing to Sweden or the global market, all free of charge, of course. And these will be found at My AI. So making knowledge, making skills opportunities really there for everyone. That's our mission. So I will leave it at that.
And I will say thank you, Annika, for that.
Thank you.
And I was reflecting while you were talking, and we were joking before, that I have no idea how my TV works. I have a very rudimentary understanding of how my mobile phone works and the combustion engine or my electrical vehicle, but I still use it. And everyone does as well. Yeah. Why, when it comes to AI, do we feel the need to know the full breadth of it or not?
I don't know. I do. If I wish that I had that secret to reveal, but I think that when it comes to using your TV or driving a car, it doesn't need you to understand how it works, but you trust the ones that have built it, that it works. And you understand why you should use it. You see the benefit for you as a person to use it, or in a business, you see the benefit of it. And I think that is the important thing, to invite sort of the whole organization in what AI can do. I think that is one key.
So reading between the lines, maybe there's some sort of self-criticism here that as a tech community, we've talked a lot about the technical aspects.
Yes. And even in the tech community, we have sort of a sense that it's AI, it's super, super difficult. And it's not. We have a lot of capabilities in AI now that is sort of, I'm drag and drop, but it's not, of course, not that easy, but it's more easy than ever before to start to use it.
Classic. So an industry builds some sort of snobism and elitism, which is not very inclusive.
No, but we have to change that.
We're here to tell you the truth. AI isn't that complicated, and everyone's welcome, which is also what Alessandra was talking about before. But I also think that there's an element that maybe we should ask the panel when they come, which is the media hype around it. It will solve everything. It will be ubiquitous, blah, blah, blah. And then there is a time lag naturally in any type of innovation and development. So I think also there's some sort of corporate disappointment in that it didn't happen quicker and it didn't change everything overnight. What's your thought?
Yeah, I agree. And I think that when people started to say, we have to start with AI, they thought it was really easy. And then they started to find out that it was a bit of a struggle. And we heard that you have to also involve legal, and you have to, so
legal.
So it's not that easy, but and that is why I think it's so important to build a culture around it, to not see AI as tech actually, but to see AI as an enabler. It's sort of it's the same as we use cloud, we use mobile devices, we use AI, and have that as a culture.
We weren't going to add buzzwords, but we've just done it, and I think I approve of it. AI is an enabler. Let's ask the rest of the panel in and see what they think about it. Guys, welcome. And we also have some questions from the audience, and I'd like to welcome the rest of you guys. If you have questions for the panel, please, I will see them here. And Alessandra, you're with us as well. But if we start where Annika and I left off, which was AI as an enabler, and we shouldn't necessarily focus on tech. Christian, what's your thoughts?
Well, if it's for operations, if you have existing products and services which are part of your conventional portfolio, forestry, manufacturing, healthcare, law, then it can be an enabler of better services and products. But if you want to change your services and products, if you want to create new ones, if you actually want to be a tech company and an AI company yourself, making AI core of your business, then you need tech folks on board, need to understand this sort of topic very thoroughly.
He very diplomatically nuanced our buzzword, but that's fine. And Alessandra, back to the question that we previously asked you, which ties into this, is how do we use a community like this? How do we use My AI? And how do we use our peers to inspire and to grow ourselves?
I'd like to share an example. At Women in AI, we have launched an education program, which is a practice group. So the groups of 3-4 women coming together and working on an AI project together with a mentor. The community attitude and connection, it helped going through that process and the project and the learning experience in a way that those women said they couldn't have done alone. So having those platforms that help us to connect to each other, to find peers with our same interests and opportunity to learn, enable a growth and an opportunity to share that is above and beyond what we can do without those platforms.
Thank you. Some really tangible advice there. Susanna, from your point of view, how do you see this platform growing and progressing, and how can you be tangible in using it?
Well, essentially, it's letting us know who's already involved or becoming involved within My AI to see who do we want to sort of bring into our network so that they can see that they can actually address our issues. I think that's the main
Magnets
Yes.
of talent.
Yes.
We have a question from the audience, and maybe it's for you, Christian. Can you name some examples of non-tech companies and how they've integrated AI to one of their workflow? No, was that for Annika? Sorry. You have to read the whole question.
I think we both have a lot
Yeah.
of examples of that. Top of mind, I mean, healthcare is doing massively on AI, and that is not a tech industry, not a tech company at core, and not even sort of an engineering company at core. Because I mean, obviously, Ericsson is doing a lot of AI, but that they have that kind of engineering mindset already. But I would say healthcare is an industry that you could look into to find that.
With obviously the key benefit of an industry adapting a piece of technology and then fundamentally shifting to being preventive as opposed to health, and using tech as an enabler. What's your take?
Yeah, actually, I would say there are fewer examples of companies that truly transform deeply. I think there are many that use it, which is sort of, let's say, become part of daily life. You know, whether you use Microsoft PowerPoint or Google search or what it is, right? Everyone is start using it. But I would say there are fewer companies that deeply have changed deeply. I would think of, if you want to look at specific companies, and maybe in the fashion industry, like Zalando, they start using recommendations. They start looking at, well, Amazon is making billions of dollars. Maybe we should also try to move into the space, right? So those types of fashion companies are starting to be very serious about it and make it part of the annual report and the investments, and try to earn money from it, you know. But otherwise, many others are start to use it as a peripheral part of the way they offer their services today, I would say. So
yeah, and I think that important thing is to really look at what you are going as a company or as an organization. What's your strategy? Where do you need to combat competitors? Where do you need to pay attention because you bleed from a cost perspective? Or where do you want to be in 4 or 5 years? And that is where you start to look at AI. And that is back to what you're saying, maybe use it more of an operational wise, but we really want to be leaders in this. We want to have retailers, we want to have the greatest retailer of it all.
yeah, exactly.
Then they really have to adopt to AI.
And if I could add to that, we're publishing a book next month, worth looking into it. And we reflected exactly on that, where often the leadership of companies, boards, and the executive leadership need to very thoroughly assess how their market position will develop over the next few years. And then they can decide whether it will be a short, if they need to change their products and services in the short run because competitors come up, or they have 5 or 10 years time because the product life cycle is so long, such as in pharmaceutical or car industry, right? I mean, you're not bringing out a new drug next year. It takes 10, 15, 20 years. So therefore you have a little bit of more time, but you need to be very honest and aware about what your products are today and how they stand the competition, you know, if they are using AI quicker.
A reflection on that, I think that's partly also why some of the movements have been so slow, because it's an understanding that whatever I learn now, it will be outdated in 15 minutes. And I think that also makes it harder to take your Friday afternoon to learn things, which is obviously not an excuse. But I have a question for you, Alessandra, from the audience. What are ways to which you can think we could work together in engagement for gender equality in the field of AI? No, sorry, Alessandra, can't even read properly. Maybe recruitment, but also in AI systems and frameworks.
So yes, AI for recruitment, we have seen catastrophic failure so far. So I wouldn't advise is to use it, because we learn from data, and we know that data, especially in the engineering and STEM industry, have lacked representation from diverse workforce and women. I think what company like Microsoft and many other are doing really to bring their tools, their academic environment open and sharing them to everyone, enabling people to acquire skill, to understand courses like introduction element of AI, really to help everyone to understand the field, being less scared and more open to engage will help us to change. But also things like we have done with the AI Sweden, it's not just about educating more women and bringing a stronger pipeline of diverse workforce, is to retain a diverse workforce into companies today. We know that there is a leaky pipeline of women that they go out for maternity leave or their family needs, and then they don't return because they feel their skills are outdated. So helping women to stay, to return, and to progress in their career is fundamental. Important.
And what are the AI tools to stem the leaky pipeline?
Good question.
Alessandra, what are the tools to stem that leaky pipeline? Because I think you're addressing something very important, that they're not coming back. We're not being able to retain them.
2, education, so giving confidence to people through mentorship, as we also have found that in the report, people really need that support, women need that support, and platform like MyAI, fundamentally important, where I don't know where to start because the world is so fragmented through all our social media and email and news. I need to find a safe space where I can safely and easily find information and people who I can connect to learn with and be mentored from.
Well, there you go. We have a huge responsibility. Before that, someone's asked about Stella Polaris, and is it published anywhere online, your work?
Yes.
Yes.
As of today.
As of today, it's on MyAI.
It is on MyAI. I hope my colleagues have also opened our LinkedIn page. If not, there's the Childhood LinkedIn, and also our Knowledge Center should be online. So I'm just going to blame someone else if it's not. But people are also welcome to connect with me, and then I can help them move on and connect with us on MyAI.
Before we ask Connie to come back and reflect on today's conversations, could you share your suggestions on how to inspire, share? We joked a little about humble bragging, but how to use the platform? Christian?
Right. So maybe I was now having this one thought in my mind. One of the reasons why I entered AI 25 years ago is I felt that it's probably one of the widest communities that is embracing and taking in so many people from so many different research areas and so on. And I'm wondering, can we build on top of that? I would hope that also the MyAI platform will offer that. What I mean is here, and also, of course, improving the attraction of women and other talents in the sector. An example is that over the last 70, 80 years, during the time AI has been built up, you have psychology, healthcare, economy, engineering, all these fields have been welcome and have been sort of cross-fertilizing sort of this idea of AI. And that's what attracted me very much, and I would hope that we can build on that sort of very wide perspective that AI always had, bringing in talent and trying to focus on the, on the problems you like to solve, such as, for example, online child abuse and others. So that's just one thought, and I hope that the platform that we introducing today, can also reflect that sort of spirit, let's say.
But it's very much a co-collaboration thing. So we can't leave it. We can't just drop it here. Everyone needs to contribute to that. So we're very happy that contributors are here. Your final reflections and tips, maybe?
Well, we're looking forward to it as a sense of community that not only we are welcome in and we can navigate in, but also to welcome, like I mentioned, a lot of experts who are not AI experts, to show that not only is it a resource for them, but that they're needed. Just as they're needed within Stella Polaris, they are needed within MyAI as well. Child rights experts, representatives from various authorities, and it doesn't just have to be the police or social services, but a wide array. And I think that the more non-AI/non-tech people who are on there, we can help sort of bridge the gap, because like it has been mentioned before, it's not just tech and it's not just AI, because it's all based on data, which is much wider than that. So yeah, that's what we're looking forward to.
Not just tech. Your take?
I just summarize what they just said, because it's really that bringing the inspiration to people, and the use cases that we can show on MyAI to inspire more, because it's really, you have to be sort of creative to figure out what you can use AI for, and we have to inspire
You just
each
told
other.
us it was easy.
Yeah, but it's easy with creativity if you just put that, if you just switch to creativity mode. That giving the use cases to inspire, but also role modeling, because I think that's one thing to increase diversity and also to invite the different kinds of roles that we need around AI, is to showcase that this is a community not only for super duper tech geekies. We need everyone, and showcasing those role models in this community, that would be a good thing.
Thank you. Now, Alessandra, final words for you. What's your key takeaways today?
I will say, like similar to the AI Women in AI mission: educate, connect, and inspire.
Boom. Thank you very much. And we will welcome Connie back. Thank you for participating and sharing both your work and your inspiration and energy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Connie,
Yes.
a few minutes left. What's your takeaways from today? What have we learned?
Wow, we've learned a lot, and it's so good to hear all these four speakers with different perspectives, and just seeing really how MyAI can help in a lot of these different areas. But also I've gotten a lot of ideas of what we can build future functionality in MyAI. I was just thinking here, mentorship has been mentioned. Maybe there should be like a mentorship way to say that I'm open for becoming a mentor or taking a mentee or something. And really, I think a lot of them said, inspiration, relevant use cases, how you can apply value in your organizations, how you build networking, collaboration, really meaningful products or projects, and diversity. And that is also a big part when we develop the platform. We have a reference group and an advisory board that is also a diverse team. So we really get the broadest view of the MyAI platform, serving all the needs in the community. So I'm really happy about this event, and hopefully I see that we have had 50 more people signing up just during the event, and I hope you can share your AI resources on this and really start collaborating, and sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring. And we have a very technical specific question for you, Connie. Is there an app?
There is not an app yet, but the site works perfectly in the mobile. It's responsive, of course. You can add it as a bookmark on your homepage or on your start screen on your mobile. That's how I have it, and it feels almost like an app. So yes.
And is it powered by AI?
It's not powered by AI yet. Again, another yet. This is 1.0, but of course it's already in the pipeline. We have a lot of ideas how we can do recommendations, based on your profile, what you're interested in. You should probably be interested in these use cases or be connected with these people. There is so much we can do with AI. And also, as I said, since this is really a data-driven platform, we can do a lot of these reportings that we saw in this Women in AI report, and actually have that live fed in here and taking the temperature of the Swedish ecosystem, both from diversity, but also seeing how different sectors work with AI in the organizations.
So let's try to summarize. It's a LinkedIn for AI. This is an opportunity to humble brag, inspire, meet people, attract talent, share knowledge. A conversation that's happened for a long while is now slowly moving forward. You don't need to know exactly everything about AI in order to understand why to use it or the objective and therefore move forward. But as our speakers were saying, of course, if you're going to move to an AI-driven core, you need deep tech and talent within your organization. It's a cultural issue. It's a mindset challenge, education and learning, inspiring. And My AI fits nicely into many of those aspects. And then we said it was easy. We said AI was an enabler. And I think to tie it up where I started, in order for us to successfully move to a fossil-free economy and live within our planetary boundaries, AI is not a silver bullet or a solution, but it's a very powerful tool once we get our mindset right. I think that covers most of what we've said today.
Well said.
Thank you so much for everyone for joining, for participating, for questions to the panel. Connie, we will see you at My AI. Thank you very much.